been doing EV road trips now for about 2 years, and I've compiled a list of what I consider to be the 7 best destinations for EV road trips. And really, you could do it in an internal combustion engine car. There's no reason it need be an EV. I just happen to do all my road trips in EV, so I'm calling it an EV road trip destination video. 7 best. Let's start with number 7. Russel-Brasstown Scenic Highway. This is nestled into the Appalachian Mountains in the northern portion of the state of Georgia. It's about 90 minutes northeast of the metropolis of Atlanta. Great place where Atlanteans escape the hustle and bustle of the urban area in order to have some reconnection with nature and other points of interest up here. What you see is a Unicoi Lake as a part of Unicoi State Park, and you can see Anna Ruby Falls is a very common destination. There's a fee to get in there, but it's nominal. It's not too much. The Russel-Brasstown Scenic Byway starts and ends in the town of Helen. My wife and I are going to Helen this weekend in order to experience Oktoberfest. This is a Bavarian-themed village, so October, there's a great Oktoberfest vibe going on there, so we're going there to just have a little couples getaway, spending the night at a state park lodge a little bit further north of there, then cruising into Helen during the daytime and roaming around and seeing what there is to see. The Russel-Brasstown Scenic Byway is a loop that starts and ends in the town of Helen, of which there's several points of interest. I mentioned Anna Ruby Falls in Unicoi State Park, the High Shoal Falls up here, which is a pretty good hike after you get off the byway. And there's a visitor center as well up here. So the Georgia Department of Transportation mapped this byway out, and it's nestled through some really terrific hills throughout northern Georgia. So a really good place to go for a ride. Not only the ride itself, but there's also all these other points of interest. So you could easily spend a long weekend or 4 days in this area. Smithville Woods, Unicoi State Park, the Raven Cliff Wilderness and Trailheads, the High Shoals Creek Waterfall. There's just plenty to do up here. Next one, and this is subjective. A lot of people would say that this should be number 1, and I'm going to explain why I don't think it is here in a second. But arguably the most famous road trip destination in the Southeast is called the Tail of the Dragon. Specifically the Tail of the Dragon at Deals Gap. It is 11 miles and 318 curves in 11 miles. So it's famous for being very curvy through a very mountainous, remote area of the Great Smoky Mountains. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is just to the north of the Tail of the Dragon, and this section there's really not much around there. And as you're going down this road, you're not going to see many places to turn off and take a break. What I don't like about it is you're constantly turning, and that gets old after a while. I mean, I don't mind a curvy road in order to experience, the engaging suspension of the car and the vista, anticipation of what's going to be around the next bend. I don't mind that, but here it is pretty in-your-face extreme. You are turning the wheel, going slow for the entire stretch. One group of enthusiasts that really like it are motorcyclists. On a 2-wheel, going around those turns apparently is ridiculously fun, and I guess I could see that. But in a car, it's pretty and all, and it is very famous, so if you have the chance, go do it. But just be ready for motorcyclists to be riding your butt, and for it to be incredibly curvy, and nothing else much around there except for the road. Number 3 is Interstate 40 in between the cities of Asheville, North Carolina, and Knoxville, Tennessee. Specifically just before you get to Interstate 81. So this stretch of Interstate 40 really should not exist as an interstate. It's one of the few places in the country where the legal speed limit on an interstate is 45 miles an hour. And that's because it's just too damn curvy in order to go 55 or 65 miles an hour. And the reason it's curvy is because the terrain is very severe. The the way they fix that in order to make it graded for interstate code is they dig a lot of tunnels and they do a lot of grading and cutting through the granite walls of the mountains in order to kind of carve out a roadway. A lot of expensive civil engineering went into creating this road, and it is very heavily traveled as well because there's not many other alternatives to go from the west over to the east into Asheville. So it is a heavily traveled corridor, but boy, is it pretty. You basically follow a river, and I don't know the name of the river. Let me see if I can see how it follows the river. Let me see what river this is. The Pigeon River. There's a town called Pigeon Forge. And boy, is it pretty. You're going through cutouts of granite with grading at like 50 to 70 degrees. So very severe grading on the mountains as you're going through there. Several tunnels and very picturesque. There's the famous Haywood County Rest Center, which I love stopping at. It's a very peaceful place along Interstate 40. So I've never driven that road and not enjoyed it. It's just a beautiful stretch of interstate highway. The next one is US 74, which at some point I understand is going to be turned into an interstate, but right now it's not. Specifically, US 74 between Cleveland, Tennessee, and Waynesville, North Carolina. This stretch of 74 that goes right through here. It cuts through the Nantahala National Forest in just about void of all population and a Forestry Service maintained region of western North Carolina. So very virgin forest, old growth forest. A beautiful river flows through there. Let me see if I can get the name of the river that the road parallels for a good stretch. I think it's this one here. My apologies. I should have grabbed it before. But there's a river that the road parallels for a good stretch that you're that's off to the side, and again, beautiful mountainous terrain with old growth forest for miles and miles and miles. Very peaceful drive, and not too strenuous either. It's not very curvy. It's pretty flat. The way they charted out US 74 through this area follows, as you can see, the ridge lines, and so they did a very good job of making it pretty straight, but still very picturesque. Next one is the Blue Ridge Parkway. Very famous. In fact, the Blue Ridge Parkway is considered to be a national park. Not only is it considered to be a national park, it is the most visited national park in the national park system by a number of visitors. And I guess they calculate that by the number of people that go onto the parkway. And you can't compete if you're just a spot of land in the Dakotas with a major thoroughfare. So that's not really fair. So I basically rule it out when I'm doing attendance counts at national parks. But it is considered to be a national park. It was built by the Civilian Conservation Corps back in the Great Depression. And as you're going along, you'll still see their handiwork for bridges, viaducts, and tunneling that made the Blue Ridge Parkway. The entire stretch of it goes all the way up from Virginia all the way to Cherokee, North Carolina. Specifically, the stretch of the Blue Ridge Parkway I would recommend and consider to be the most picturesque and enjoyable to drive is right around Mount Mitchell in what's known as the Highlands region of North Carolina. You'll see the town of Boone is a good place to get on. Or Bowling Rock, right in here is where you get onto the parkway, and then cut down to Asheville. So this section right here of the Blue Ridge Parkway, I would consider to be the best. And I've basically driven all of the Blue Ridge Parkway in the state of North Carolina. I haven't done a lot in Virginia. I am going to do that at some point. But Mount Mitchell's claim to fame is the highest point east of the Mississippi, and you can get off the Parkway and go to Mount Mitchell State Park. Where is Mount Mitchell State Park? There's Grandfather Mountain. Mount Mitchell State Park is over here. You see this road right here. This will take you up to Mount Mitchell State Park, and then there's a really nice summit overlook at the top of Mount Mitchell. Again, the highest point east of the Mississippi. There's also something called the Linville Cove Viaduct, which is probably the most photographed section of the Blue Ridge Parkway. There's a viaduct that kind of hugs the side of the mountain. I think it's right here, very close to the Mount Mitchell turnoff. And so very pretty section of the Blue Ridge Parkway. If you have the chance, that's definitely an option. Here's the Linville Cove Viaduct. As you can see, there's no way really to build a road easily, so they just put in this viaduct instead. Sixth would be the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Now there are up here in Virginia Beach, Norfolk region, this beautiful Chesapeake Bay tunnel and bridge is very famous. It costs $20 to go across it, but that looks kind of cool, similar to what you would see on the bridge going to Key West across the Keys in southern Florida, I would imagine. But this is a national, they call it a national seashore, but it's pristine dunes that the road cuts through as you're going down here. And just beautiful. On one side is the ocean spray, on the other side is this Potomac Sound. And at Hatteras Island is the very famous Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, which has become a national park. So you can go see the lighthouse when you get to the end of this. And then here, if you wish to continue, you have to take a ferry to continue. But I've taken this all the way down, and it is absolutely beautiful. Not only is it beautiful, the road is brand new, and it's elevated. It's a very expensive road because there's not a lot of land here. And if you look at this juncture right here, it's all built into the water in order to connect this section of the national seashore to the mainland of the Outer Banks. So it's a pretty expensive piece of road, but they've built it all out of concrete, and it's just a really nice, smooth ride with untouched seashore going through here. There's a couple of cities, but really beautiful, and it just keeps going on mile after mile. Very beautiful. However, the number one most beautiful EV road trip destination in the Southeast is, without a question, in my opinion, US 441 between the Sugarlands Visitor Center in Tennessee at the Great Smoky Mountains National Park to the Occoquan Visitor Center in North Carolina. This stretch of 441 was also built by the Civilian Conservation Corps during the Great Depression and constitutes the main thoroughfare for the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, which was established by motor vehicle enthusiasts looking for places to have road trip destinations. They were petitioning their representatives in Washington, and they wanted this to be established as a road trip destination and a federal road built through it so they could go and enjoy it, and it could be opened up to everyone at large. And that was the reason for it. And so that being the focus, this road traverses along ridge lines through the Blue Ridge Mountains in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So on either side of the road are just these magnificent vistas that go off to either side, where you see rolling peaks off in the distance and the characteristic blue haze cascading out to your vision as far as your eye could see. Just ridge line after ridge line after ridge line, and in the fall it just takes your breath away. It's indescribable how beautiful this is. It really is absolutely magnificent. And it's also nice that there's facilities along the way. It is very rural area of western North Carolina, but because it's within the boundaries of a national park, there are pull-offs, There are some facilities here at Newfound Gap. There's pull off with some facilities in the Ocklawaha Visitor Center and the Sugarlands Visitor Center. So it's just absolutely perfect place to go for a fall drive. So if you're in the Southeast and you're looking for destinations in order to do road trips, hope this helped. Pick one off the list and go see it this weekend. Thanks for watching.